Okay, so we had a quick look at arms then. So now what we're going to look at is legs. And adding in the legs, I don't think we need to go over because it can either bring in one big cylinder and form it through there. You can bring in two cylinders, one for the upper leg, one for the lower leg. Or you can make Z-spheres. Totally up to you. I think I might make mine through Z-spheres just for poops and giggles. But what we will have to be aware of as well is when we start to make the legs, it'll start to become very clear of how long our body is, and then we'll need to make adjustments. As we saw in the last video, when I was just talking about the arms, you could see how much I made the second body shorter, because this one is just a little bit too long, I know that. And what I'm going to do quickly is just split the mesh up, take my head, I'm going to duplicate it, move it to the side, careful. Like that. Make it brighter, there we go. I'm going to chop off the neck very quickly. So I'm holding Control and Shift to do this. This changes, I can change this function here to be a knife curve. Just on the shadow side there, I'm just going to cut the neck off. There we go. Because what I'm going to do is do my head measuring. So this is my head measurer. And to do a quick duplication, what I can do is hold Control and then drag on one of the arrows. So if I hold Control, drag down, I'm going to do a quick duplicate. So I'm going to make this 8 heads, 7 and a heads high. And again, this is all like estimation stuff. 5, 6, 7, 8 and a half. There you go. No. There you go. So I've just made like a quick measuring guide for myself. So I get a bit of an idea about how tall this is going to be, and it already looks a little bit too tall, but we can approach that later on. This character might be 7 heads high. Anyway, I'll keep that there, and I can just turn that on and off if I need to. But what I'm going to do first of all, bring in that Z-sphere. So let's go insert Z-sphere. There we go. And I'm going to bring this. So my model's actually really small. That's why my Z-sphere is so big. I'm going to move this down, scale it down. Oh, let's rotate. Scale down to the middle of the pelvis. Like that. Now, just like with the arms here, like we did in class, what I'm going to do is press Q for my draw mode. Make sure I've got symmetry turned on. Pressing X because that will make sure that I'm doing it both sides. You should do that as soon as you make the subtool anyway. So I'm going to start dragging out. Now these are going to be my hips. My hip bones, I should say. Now remember, if I hold Shift, I can make these the same size as the Z-sphere I'm pulling out from. But I'm not going to be for now. I'm just going to make them a little bit like this. Drag them into my hip position, like that. And then from underneath, I'm going to, again, go to draw mode. I'm going to draw out. This time I'm going to hold Shift. And then with that second sphere I've just dragged out then, I'm just going to grab it and move it all the way down. Just like we did last year where we were doing... Just like we were doing a 3D modeling last year, we were making that journey. I'm going to make that journey. But what I'm going to do is not drag it all the way down to the line, because that's from my heads I've got here. You remember, we've got feet. And this is going to be one thing that catches people out with both the arms and the legs. Is you're going to make your arms too long and you're going to make your legs too long, because you'll make the leg shape and then you'll almost like second nature add the extra 6 inches at the bottom because the foot's not there. And then when you add the foot, you're adding that extra 6 inches later on. So I'm going to bring it about here. There we go. So they're my legs for now. But I'm going to work with the Z-spheres and make them a bit nicer. So where's my knee? So let me point in a knee. My knee's going to be... You could call it halfway. Technically, the thigh is longer than the calf. So I'm going to go about here. And then just give it a little bit of a bend so I've got something like that. And then I can start adding Z-spheres and scaling them up and down to get as close as I want, or close as I can to a leg. So for instance, if I add a Z-sphere in the middle of the thigh here, and then use scale just to scale it up. Maybe scale this up a little bit. I'm going to add one in the calf. Oopsie daisy. Then scale that up. Then from the back I'm going to move it backwards. And then I'm going to move it outwards. Now when I do in fact I'll do the draw over now. Let's let me get some legs. Let me get a drawing. Let me get. So when we actually, sorry, I got a very itchy nose today. When we're actually making legs, what we've got to think about, just like with the arms, is that there's like diagonal angles going down the leg. So if we think of the first one being the pelvis, like that one, then you get one in the calf, then you get one in the knee, sorry, in the thigh, then you get one in the calf, then you get one in the ankle. So you have these like diagonal angles where, from the front anyway, where you'll have the wider part, the muscles not be completely in line with each other, they'll be offset like this because of the ways that your muscles grow. So with that in mind, if I was to like draw over a leg in this, so, oh, that's a bit bad. There you go. So I'm going to aim in for something like this. Now, from the front, one of the biggest muscles I'm going to have to be aware of is a muscle which comes around the leg like this. That's very messy. Like that. Around the leg like that. And then you've also got something called a band of Richter, which is this little thing that wraps over the knee. You only really ever see that on larger people or people who are very well, like bodybuilders, because like, I think it's like the water in the body. Now there is, if we think about the tricep muscle in the arm, you've got these two muscles, and then you got this muscle like that. You have this kind of muscle group all over the leg, well, in two places, technically three. But if we get a different color for this, there we go. You've got something similar right here. I'll get in a better color. There we go. So you've got the same kind of thing going on here. You'll see that in a lot with runners. And with cyclists, you'll see it on the back of the calf. And I think with weightlifters, you'll see it on all of it, but you'll especially see it in the back of the thigh. This kind of muscle structure here. Now, another thing to think about in this area, let's get a better color, is around the knee. So our elbow is, you've got your humerus coming down, and then you've got your ulnar and your other bone like that coming off, like that. With a knee, you have something called a patella, basically a kneecap on that knee, and that forms some beautiful little structure around the knee that we're going to look at in a bit as well. So, boom. So remember, I can only really get round shapes with these Z-spheres. What I'm going to do is just look at these and just make adjustments. Do I need to scale anything up? Do I need to scale anything down? Do I need to move anything? Oops. Okay, for now I'm going to leave it like that, because I can push and pull and drag and all that kind of stuff later on. So let's remember that awkward little fun time we have to do to get this actually as a workable piece of geometry. So currently we're in a Z-sphere, so as you can see the right hand side menu is a little bit different, but what you want to do is come to adaptive skin and then mess around with the settings up to the very top for whatever you want. Now I'm not too bothered about this. The density, it's fine. I'm going to leave the settings as it is. If you want to increase the density, which if you've still got a Dynamesh resolution number in there and it's not 0, all the density is going to do is change how flat the surface is. But I quite like working with that chunkier surface. If you turn off Dynamesh resolution, or if you set it to 0, so there's no resolution, what you're going to get here is actual geometry. So if you had something like this, you'll be working with literally this geometry. So I'm going to set that as, what was it, 256? 256. And then density 2. Just like that. So when I'm happy with that, I'm going to click Make Adaptive Skin. Like that. And then in my subtool, I'm going to go into Insert or Append, doesn't matter. And then you got this Skin Z-Sphere 1, or if you've done a bunch of these, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So that's my actual sculpting surface that I've just brought in. This one. Oops, daisy. This one. So I can take away this Z-Sphere now. I can get rid of it. Don't need it anymore. Boom. Now here's, again, where the fun stuff happens. I'm going to leave my resolution really low. And I'm just going to start to move geometry around. Now let me just do a bit of side-by-side thing. I'll try and do some decent drawing over on here. So, legs. So I did my draw over in the front then. I'll do a quicken again. So obviously we're coming in from the pelvis. I can already tell my pelvis is too long. We come down, so we've got the muscles there. Then we've got the kneecap coming into the calf, ankle bone. Then you've got your tibia, I think is the one that sticks out at the front. There's a little bit more of a mass at the very, very top of the leg on the inside. And obviously, depending on the character, you might have like a little bit of a slight indentation here, especially if you're doing like a suggestive character, a very, very sexy character. You might have something like that. Now, from the front, it's, from the 3/4, it's where it might get a little bit kind of weird at first. And this is where looking at reference is incredibly important. Because you've got your pelvis coming in here, your leg's not going to stick out like that. Our legs don't do that. Our legs come down pretty much from the pelvis from a 3/4 point of view. So that's why the pelvis is there. And then it's that muscle at the front leg which gives it some weight, some size. And then we've got the kneecap. That muscle coming in. Then we come back a little. I always overbend this because I like the way it looks, but you pretty much have a very, very straight. That's not in line at all. There you go. You have pretty much a straight shin bone. So let's do the other side. So let's actually talk about some other stuff as well while we're here. The bum. Now we've not really spoken about the bum yet, or the importance of the bum, because it's one, just like with the deltoid, it's one of those things that sits over the torso and the leg, and is a really, really important area to think about because it has some really, really interesting shapes. Number one, it's the fat which is inside the leg, inside the bum, which gives it its shape. We do have muscles within the bum. Obviously, we have our gluteus maximus and gluteus medius, but the shape of the bum is generally going to be made from fat. Bum muscles are actually very much like pectorals as well. It's like a cross between a pectoral and a deltoid because they kind of work quite similar. But you've got, and they start up on like kind of up here as well. So if that's our rib cage there, you've got these pads of fat which create the bum. You know, it's that cellulite buildup. Like that. And then, and you'll be able to see it more in the 3/4 in the side view, you've got the gluteus medius. Let's get a better color for that. There you go. Gluteus medius right here, which is basically a point where you have overlapping muscle, or you have muscles that kind of like move around. There's not as many muscles there. It's often characterized as like a little bit of an indentation on the hip from the side, because you've got your hip bone coming in from your pelvis, or your femur, and then you got muscles wrapping around it, and it's just kind of an indentation where there's not a lot going on. But again, you've got your kneecap. Like that. And then from the side, I find it's quite good to think about this as almost like gesture drawing, because there is almost like a bit of a rhythm to the leg from the side. It's why, I can draw legs so fast sometimes. It's because you think about the rhythm of the leg. The leg is just big sweeps that go around like this. Obviously, that's a very stylized leg. It's a gestural drawing of a leg. But what you have, I'll bring out that green for this, is you've got the coming in from your pelvis, coming down from your pelvis. You've got the big sweep of the thigh that wraps round into the back sweep of the calf. And then there's basically a straight line that goes through to the other side, depending if you've built up those muscles or not. But again, you've got kneecap, something like that. Now when it comes to the bum again, depending on the character and depending on the fitness of the person, you might have like 2 or 3 kind of... Oh, I've missed out a fat cap. You might have like 2 or 3 different bum types. One would just be a flat ass, It blends in. There's not really that much what I call a balcony, where literally the bum kind of comes in from the back and just blends into the leg like that. Then you've got the one with the proper balcony, and this is like when I talk about the balcony, I'm talking about this kind of shape right here, a point where there is quite a big crease. And again, you might see that on like more sexier characters or more kind of athletic characters, or even an alien or something. And then you get the saggy ass. So that's where you get like your old person ass, witch's ass, that kind of stuff. And I'm not really sure how to draw that. I'm drawing a saggy bum. But I just realised I did actually add it in dead quick. There is a 4th fat pad which is just underneath the bum, right there. Just underneath your bum cheek. There's like a little fat pad there. And let's just get in that. So that's where your gluteus medius is. Okay, so what's the difference? Well, what's the similarities between arms and legs? Well, there are lots of similarities. I'll use green for this one. So just like with the shoulder, you've got a bone. So this is essentially our shoulder or our pelvis. You get a bone that comes out. You got your femur that comes out, and it connects you using a ball and socket joint. And then that comes down, like that. And just like with, so that's your humerus. Your femur, your humerus, very, very similar shapes. And then you got your tibia and your fibia, which are the 2 bone structures which are the bottom of the leg. Just like your ulna and your whatever it's called, and your forearm, where you have these 2 bones that allow us to basically rotate our arm around. We have very, very similar things happening there. We have similar structures. So round the back, on an arm we've got the deltoid like that. On the leg we've got the bum, or the gluteus medius around the back. So that's essentially our deltoid, but it's at the back. And then we've got that tricep bicep kind of structure quite a lot. So we've got essentially the bicep from the front, and then around the back we've got, I'll do a quick back shot as well later after this. We've got essentially the tricep behind there as well. Now in the back of the leg right here you've got essentially a tricep as well. Now I've never bothered to learn the muscle of the legs with the loads. I believe one called the great trochanter or something like that, and it's a very cool sounding name. But the tricep at the back here is what you see when you see runners and cyclists. It's that really kind of long muscle at the back of someone's leg that Kind of irks me out sometimes. And then you've essentially got wrist bones. A lot of this is very, very similar. Some of the muscles are a bit different. You know, we don't have this kind of muscle structure in our forearm. We have that in our bicep, tricep area. But the way that the bones are laid out, the way that we have that... Oh, did it wrong. There you go. These kind of shapes going through the arms, you know, these diagonal shapes going through the leg. Legs are essentially just arms. There we go. So if I flip them round, now when it comes to the muscles of the bum, you've essentially, like I said, got what is pretty much either like a cross between a deltoid and a pectoral. You know, you've got these sheets of muscles which wrap around like that connect to your leg and to your top of your pelvis. There we go, pen, thank you. And then you've got muscles like that. Then you've got your hamstring. And these are the big important muscles. I'm not going to obviously go into any of the really, really small weird muscles because there's no point. You do have a bit of a muscle thing on the inside of in like the thigh gap essentially there, like I said. So then you got the cyclist muscles here. And you get your Achilles tendon which goes down to your heel, which will be like down here. And you got your so there you've got one muscle, kind of two muscles there, another one there. Now let's talk about the fat pads a minute ago. So generally the whole kind of shape is like this, something like this. Maybe it's not. It's like that, isn't it? Yeah, it's like that. So like a bit of a bent teardrop. And like I said, it's always characterized as 3 or 4 separate kind of clusters of fat. But these are the things that give our bum the actual shape of it, the actual shape. So, with all that in mind, let's actually do some proper sculpting. So yeah, I can go in there with now that we're back on sculpting, I can go in there with just the move brush at first and just kind of start to pull stuff around. And again, you'll be surprised at what you can achieve just with this move brush. Always looking at the reference, because one thing that's a bit tricky to get in at first is how the pelvis connects to the body. So I've got to step back, look at it, move back. So maybe I need to either chill my legs out, maybe my legs are a bit too fat, or maybe my pelvis is too thin. You know, maybe just fatten out a little bit. Like I said, my body's definitely too long, so I'm just going to nudge it up a little bit. And with the bum, I'm just going to drag that down. Something like that. Just trying to think of that balcony kind of that we're talking about right there. Go through and just start to pull out some of the features by the patellas. So no sculpting just yet at all. So what I'm also looking here, because we're also working on just like the arm, a thinner area. The body's quite a big mass. But with legs and arms, because you're dealing with a thinner area, I got to be careful of what's happening with my move brush. What was happening then, because it was too big, it was also dragging in from the opposite side, making a bit of a wobbly mess. So I have to be a bit more careful with that. Or, you know what I can do? I can also mask areas off. If I don't want certain areas to be touched, I can like just mask them off. So mask off that bit, so I can then just pull out this bit. Then I can probably flip that and do the inside a little bit. Looking for underneath. Oops, a daisy. Step back. Let's have a look at my heads. Looking at a line of action. So what I'm also looking at is the line of action. So from basically where my spine connects to my skull down in a straight line, does that meet where my heel would be? Does it go through the back of my body, through my spine? And then with a touch of inflate, I can also just start to just, if I need to, or deflate and inflate stuff. So at this point I'm happy. You know, I could probably labor over that for ages, but just in the interest of speed. So I've done that again. I don't really care about the quality of that service. I don't care that I've got all this information. What I'm going to do is just start either with my dam standard or even my clay build up. Just start blocking in some of this big detail. And the big one for me straight away is getting a nice knee in there. So that's what my knee's going to be, patella, and then down into. There we go. Now I'm moving around as well. I'm going to make sure that I can see I've got like a little bit of a lumpy. It's like goes out, then in, then out, then in, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to make sure that in the early stages I'm fixing that up, that I'm not getting any wobbly geometry. If I need it wobbly, I'll add it in later on. And actually go into smooth. Personally, I go into smooth a little bit earlier on with the knee, with the leg. I don't know why. So I'm kind of blocking in the masses, and we're not going to go over studying like features of the leg so much in this one, because we're going to do that in class. And also, you've got your own legs, plus a bunch of reference. So what I'm doing is getting in those two little kind of lumps that are at the bottom of the knee, or bottom of the thigh. And start to get in. We need to move this whole leg a little bit like this. Down, so I'm going to chisel in some of those muscles now. So that one that comes across there. I'm just going to put a landmark in for there, and then like that there. So that landmark there is just me giving myself a landmark of where my gluteus medius is going to be going. So I can just knock that back a touch and just. Again, I'm using my smooth tool quite a lot, like I said. Not getting rid of any information, but rather working with those sketches I've just put in to build up that leg. Constantly moving around. So let's go and do no. Go and find it a bit more now. So I was talking about that Band of Richter there. It's a Band of Richter, Ritcher, not Richter, Richter. I think it's a little fat pad that kind of wraps around the top of the knee like that, which is quite a nice one. It's quite a nice one that you build it up through subtle kind of shapes. It's really nice. And I'm using my knowledge of the knee to kind of just like slap in some pretty OTT information, knowing that I'll fix it up later on. But again, I'm just trying to get some shape in there. Try not to worry too much. What I'm doing is not getting fixated on details, but rather just trying to just get some of the forms in there and just exploring some of the brushes. So I'm using like that clay, the standard brush here, because it's a bit softer, to get some of that undersurface leg bone, kind of like where it's like a little bit of a bulge at the top of the leg there, or you know, if I'm doing the ankles, I could probably add in a little bit of information there, and it's not too crispy. If I want to do something like use the clay build-up to get that kind of information in there, I can do. You know. Kind of define the top of my tendon, Achilles tendon. Now I've not got any feet in here as well, but I can start to just imagine the transition between them. So I'm starting to think, well, that's going to be lower because the inside ankle, higher because the outside angle. Maybe that's a bit too big at the front. Okay, I'm getting quite happy with this now. So just pushing that. It's looking okay. Bit thin in some areas, so I can just start to build up some of that mass. I don't want to give a massive cyclist muscles, but I do want to kind of make a bit more of an effort with that muscle. Ooh, so looking from the top, you can see it's very square there, so let's just probably turn off perspective. Let's have a look at our heads. So, you know, I'm sort of happy with it so far. I think the calves are a bit big, so I can just kind of thin them out a little bit. That's better. Now, I'm going to be quite spicy as well at this point, and I'm actually going to blend this into the body in a second, make it one side mesh, but I've got to get that pelvis area working. This obviously isn't super nice here. What I want to do is I want to make room for the groin. Like that. Okay. So I'm quite happy with how this is looking so far. So I'm going to merge my body onto my legs. So if I lose any information, I'm not particularly that bothered yet, because we're only early in. And literally, how long has that taken me to do? All I've been thinking about is the major details. If I lose anything, it's fine. So what I'm going to do is move the legs under the body. So let's just click and drag in it in the subtool menu here. And then I'm going to merge my body down, because that's the dominant structure. So merge down, and you can leave this until later on, or you can do it around the same time that I'm doing it. It's all about how confident you are with the actual model itself. So I'm going to merge that down, so it's one mesh, and then I'm going to Dynamesh. Oh, I'm going to Dynamesh, I said, at 256. See how that looks? Yeah. Okay. Boom. So now that I've blended it in, all I've got to do is fix it up. Now I'm going to look at these and see if I can actually use some of these sharp lines it's given me to my advantage and get rid of the ones I don't want to have in there. And then fix up the geometry now that one's one big mesh. So I'm going to just get rid of that. going to leave that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat this like a nude. I'm going to give a bit of a bum. Oh, it's too much. There we go. Just talking about that mass under the bum, that kind of like extra fat pad. So I'm going to add that in a little bit. There we go. So, yeah, I can go through and start to just fix up some of this anatomy. Got to think about the landmark. So where's my pelvis? My pelvis is there. So this bit here needs to get chilled out. So let's just chill this bit out. See how that affects the leg. It looks okay, but maybe I need to chill all this front bit out a little bit. Going to pull in a little bit more of that. I want to be careful with how much pelvis information I'm putting in. Just because it looks weird if you put too much in. So I'm taking quite a lot of information away here. And then it's using a smooth tool just to carefully smooth it back. Okay, not bad. Could be better. Using the inflate brush to deflate some areas. So if I want to thin out the knees or the ankles, so I'm carefully deflating. I'm not. If I do it too much, it kind of does this, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to carefully deflate it. Don't make any adjustments. So I've got very bony knees there. Okay. And that looks pretty good so far. You know, feet aren't in there, rest of the body isn't in there, but we've got some legs in there. So legs are actually really, you know, a little bit easier to do than arms because I think you don't have to control as much subtle forms like what you do with the arms. Lots of tons of subtle forms, but with the legs, you can be a little bit more expressive and then knock it back, and then be a little bit more expressive and knock it back. The hard part about this is there are a lot more kind of expressive forms in the leg, the knees, the ankles, the bum. If you're really going into the muscle detail, then you got to get all these muscles that are in there that we will be looking at. I will do a document about muscles. Now this character is a bit thin-hipped, so if I did want to change anything, you know, make a bit, you know, bigger hips, I can easily just carefully make adjustments, because then I've got to think about where that is going to be from. You know, I can still make adjustments. You know, whatever you want. We're still in sketching mode at the minute. And then I can do the age-old. You know, does that look alright? Fall back on your knowledge of anatomy from, if you're a person who draws a lot of characters, or even back to the anatomy classes live drawing that we did last year and this year. Try not to forget that this is the only difference between this and 2D is you got an extra dimension, which should be better because now we can look at all the different angles. So there you go. So that was a relatively quick one, 40 minutes. But I don't need to cover a lot of anything else because it's just using the same processes that we've been using already. You know, we should know about adding detail through the move brush and, you know, big clay brushes. You know, sketching stuff out using the dam standard and the clay build up. Adding different parts of the meshing using like append or insert, or using like a. I use Z spheres then, or you could use them as 2 cylinders, like one for the thigh, one for the calf, or 1 cylinder for the entire leg. You know, I'm trusting people to be a bit more savvy and a bit more clever about this. The only thing to learn in this one is just the structures of the leg. And we'll be going into that more and more and more, obviously, during class, and with handouts and when I need to kind of give specific feedback. Because there are features of the leg that I've not really over defined. One, which is going to annoy me if I don't do it right now, it's going to be playing on my brain, is around the knee. The knee doesn't really come in like this too much. The inside here, you got like a little bit of a. Let's do a draw over. So you got a bit of a bulge here. But then you have something similar here that I've just not bothered to put in. That's my kneecap. So you do have these kind of like bulges. It's a little bit like around the elbow. If you feel around your elbow, around there, where I'm around there. So that's my elbow right there. So around here, you'll be able to feel like a bulge at the top and the bottom. It's literally your bones. Same thing in the leg. So that's why, again, legs are literally just arms. So I can bring in some of that information. And again, I do want to really stress, I'm not just doing this. I'm not building up like that. I'm blending into it. I'm stroking into it like this. Better. Oops, daisy. Yeah, there we go. A bit better. So there you go. Those are legs. The best thing to do is just keep practicing and draw them as well. Make sure draw your legs out, draw your arms out, draw the muscle structure from the front and the back. When you block something in, go in there and do a draw. Take a screenshot, do a draw over. It's really good. So yeah, I'll leave it there. See you in the next one.